Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avenger.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Silent hymns through the ages, guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hidden voices, quiet prayer, seeds still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always well. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical, the final hour. Truth revealed in holy power. They were called can't stop. What is coming?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic hump day. Wednesday, hump day. The days just kind of meld all together, and yeah, that's just my life sometimes. But I hope everybody out there is having a great Wednesday and a great week and watching the world unveil its secrets. There's some interesting things going on. And for me, being someone with an inquisitive mind, understanding a lot of the hidden in the world, the occult and the esoteric, and having a good perspective on that, I see things and I start going, what is going on? This is not a coincidence. And I put a post out there today. We're going to go over it about the Pope receiving the white horse. And I know what people are thinking. Yeah, things are about to get crazy because it's going to be biblical. And it absolutely is going to be biblical. Although I have an interesting theory. It's something I've noticed over the course of the last few weeks. And it's tending to make sense. Because this is actually what you would do. So I'm gonna go into this part. There's a little bit of news. I don't have much, but I'm gonna get into this part. This is gonna be hopefully I explain it really well. Hopefully I'm able to extrapolate the ideas and thoughts in my mind of what I'm thinking and what I'm perceiving of what I think is happening. Right? So we'll get into that here in a few minutes. All right. John Mappin. If you don't know John Mappin, he's a geopolitical commentator, media group owner, businessman, truth seeker, game maker. He is also one of the financiers of TPUSA, who's been very vocal and came out in support of Candace Owens, and is questioning the official narrative. John put a poll up on his X account. And I want to put this poll out there. And it was a really simple question he asked. He asked, do you think we are being told the truth about Charlie Kirk's assassination? And I think that this is significant. I mean, only 162 votes, but it is still at this level. 92.6% knows. Now, this goes back to Charlie Kirk's memorial service, where you had the one reporter talking, I think it was Jack Posibek. They're out there talking to the audience, and they were asking the same thing, and people were saying, no. And the problem is that it stinks. It stinks really, really bad. And I know Kash Patel came out today and was asked about the conspiracy theories, and he said, look, we're looking at all the facts. We're overturning every stone. We're looking into this, and we don't have anything yet, but we're going to put some information out there. But he says we are not even considering the conspiracy theories, which I find kind of interesting, but I think that there is more to this situation than really does meet the eye. And I think that as we expand into the information of what is known and more things get released, the death certificate, the autopsy report, these types of things, we're going to truly start to realize what was going on. And right now, from what we're hearing about the autopsy report, is that he was shot in the neck, and this is what Candace Owens said, shot in the neck, and it stopped right here in the back of his spine. Well, that's not a 30-06. That's impossible. Ask anybody. And apparently there is no bullet recovered. I don't know. But it seems to be a lower caliber bullet. And if that's the case, then Tyler Robinson is going to walk. Because if they cannot produce a bullet and there's no ballistic evidence substantiating a 30-06 round, this is going to be really bad for them. So the question becomes is who did it? Why did they do it? And I'm not going to explore those ideas or conspiracies because, well, it can get pretty heated. I have my thoughts on it. I think that there's a lot of evidence pointing in one direction, not necessarily a nation state, but definitely a group of individuals inside the United States of America who are very, very wealthy, well-financed, and had a lot to lose by Charlie Kirk kind of changing his whole direction with TPUSA. But I don't have any substantiating evidence that supports that. But, you know, as we move forth, a lot of things have happened since then. Donald Trump just had a historic peace deal prescribed in the Middle East. And this came about through the capitulation of Netanyahu. And I will put it like that, the capitulation of Netanyahu. There's a video out there. I couldn't find it, but they were talking about it last night on DEF CON, where you have Steve Wyckoff and Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump laughing at Bibi Netanyahu. And, you know, Donald Trump had Bibi come to the White House and he had him call the head of Qatar and apologize on the phone and made the media know about it. Did it in front of the cameras. When Trump goes to Israel in Netanyahu's home, he has Netanyahu call Iran and say that I no longer want to go to war with you. This is humiliating. This is very, very humiliating, which is a signal to you and me that Trump is telling us something through a communication here. That firstly, nobody embarrasses Netanyahu. He's a very powerful man on this planet, but Donald Trump just did. And he got him to capitulate on Hamas, which is going to allow for a Palestinian state to get created and bring about sovereignty for the West Bank and so forth. And then the integration of various different powerful figures, Turkey, Jordan, so forth, Egypt, into this deal, which basically means that once the ISF, the International Security Force, is in place in Gaza, Israel's dead in the water. There is no going back in and trying to do this all over again. There is no annexing Gaza at this point, because any further progression is going to spark a conflict in the Middle East with Turkey and Egypt, which Israel cannot substantiate. At the same time, Turkey is a NATO member, so there's Article 5 protocols right there with the United States of America. Egypt is an ally to NATO. There's defense cooperation agreements with Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. So the thing is Israel cannot attack once the ISF is in place. And if they do, well, all hell's going to break loose. But I mean, I honestly think they're going to. But that's just my opinion. The reason being is because Netanyahu has to save face. There's a lot of pissed off people in Netanyahu's administration and the IDF, so forth, about all of this. And Israel is looking very, very embarrassed and humiliated on the global stage. Now, the interesting part is the optics of what just happened on the international stage. Glenn Beck actually summed this up very, very well. And thanks, Roxy, for sending this to me, or whoever sent it to us in our group chat. We have a group chat of quite a few people, and they said, Josh, you have to watch what Glenn Beck says here. And Glenn Beck is absolutely right. And this is going to set the precedent for everything else we're about to talk about here. Listen to this.
The guy is changing the world. I mean, you remember we were watching when he arrived in Egypt, and I said, I've never seen this before. I'll have to narrow this down for you because I say that several times a day now. But you know how they always, when the world leaders get together, they always stand on a stage. They get one shot. And once in a while, they'll stand on stage as they're assembling and they'll talk amongst themselves. But I've never seen a photo line with world leaders to take a picture one-on-one with the president. Okay, never seen that in my life. Okay, and that's what was happening on Monday in Egypt. He was 2 hours late. Okay, and apparently, and I'm not going to divulge who, but apparently one person was upset and was like, I'm not waiting around for this. And yet they waited around for it. And they lined up. Even the king of Saudi Arabia was in the line, waiting in the line for 30 minutes while he took photos with all of the leaders around the world. They are treating him I mean, he's changed the world. The guy knows how to use power. It's my understanding from conversations that I had piecing some things together. It's my understanding Vladimir Putin has changed with him too. Even Putin has noticed this is the guy who's kind of steering the world and is more deferential to Donald Trump. And I hope that's true. I hope that begins to play out with Ukraine.
It's quite key to understand who you're speaking with, right? Like it's not always about what you want to say or what you want. It's about what the other person wants and what they understand. Someone made the point that Donald Trump speaks Arabic better than any native speaker. And I thought that was an interesting comment. It's like, you know, it is a he seems to be able to communicate to the leaders in that part of the world.
They understand strength.
They understand it, yeah, and they react to it. And I think they don't see him as a passing, like, oh, he's here, but you know, just wait him out. Like they don't think he's going to change or he's going to fold on the stuff.
And they think that he's changing the world. And everybody who follows him is going to follow in these footsteps. They don't think that this is just he's got three more years left, and then Kamala comes back. They don't think that.
All right. So imagine this: Donald Trump negotiates probably one of the largest Middle East peace deals ever, historical. Not only does he negotiate the peace deal, he ensures with the 20-point plan within the deal that it'll be incredibly difficult for the whole situation to arise again, right? The king of Saudi Arabia waited 30 minutes in line just to get a picture with him. Do you remember the video where Donald Trump's walking in front of King Charles? They view him as royalty. Something major is going on here. People throughout all of Israel are calling him, I don't want to say it, but they are calling him a prophet. They are calling him biblical. You got to remember, many of the people in Israel don't like Netanyahu. Now, last week, October 10th, there was this concert in Egypt. And it truly did concern me. The reason being is because the concert appeared to be the predicate for an occult ritual, which, trust me, this is how these people operate. If you go back to our September 30th, 2023 episode, I said something big is going to happen on October 7th. You watch, a major false flag event is going to happen on October 7th. You want to know what happened on October 7th? October 7th, Israel, Hamas. And that happened to be the day of a once in like 300 year lunar eclipse. Why? Because they utilize astrology. They utilize the various different dates and times. They hone in on what is known as subtle cosmic powers, if you want to look at it like this. And you don't have to believe in it. It doesn't matter. They do. Now, let me give a little background, because I think that this is truly important. One thing I did early in my life is I studied what was known as the esoteric mystery schools. I studied the occult. I wanted to know everything I could possibly know about it. And I did this because I was truly curious about what was the secret that I didn't know, but apparently these people did. And over my years and through my faith and my love for God, it started to be unveiled to me, revealed to me. One of the things that you have to understand about occult history, or just the occult in general, is that it's not evil or good. It just is. It's just knowledge. It's just information. And I think that is a good cornerstone to put down here. It's just information. Just understand that. It's just information. But it was information held by secret societies for a very, very long time that they kept the flame going throughout history. In the late 1700s, many of these institutions and these secret societies were infiltrated. And we know this historically. This was expanded within the 1800s and brought about the rise of socialism and communism. If you listen to David Whitehead's video the other day, the occult world of totalitarianism, he lays it out with the Lodge of Memphis and how they infiltrated all the other Masonic lodges and they began taking over. There's many other aspects of this: the Sabbatean Frankists, the rise of various different movements, the various different revolutions that occurred, the French Revolution, the 1850s European socialist revolutions. All of these derive from occult societies that were infiltrated and taken over, or just inherently evil, if you want to look at it like that, because they had an agenda in mind. And they knew that if they could control the occult secret societies and the information within them, that they could soon rule the world. This was exponentiated in the 20th century with what's called the New Thought movement. The New Thought movement brought about a lot of rebirth of old ideas and ancient ideas, more so Kabbalistic, Rosicrucian, and Hermetic. But there was just a convergence of all of these various different philosophies into one. And a lot of the information that came out laid the cornerstone for what we know of today as the New Age movement, which is, in my opinion, absolute garbage. Because it's just hoopla. It's not the message that was originally intended through the occult knowledge. But it's instead a message derived by the evil in the world that sought to control the minds of people. All right? So the New Age movement, I would say, absolutely is infiltrated by this evil. And that a lot of what we consider to be occult or esoteric or mystery schools these days is controlled by these same societies. Okay, so now that we got that down, my theory has always been that where are the good guys? What happened to the good guys? There's got to be good guys out there that realized the infiltration and tried to develop plans to go out there and take it back. And I think that this is what we are seeing. So understand that there's certain rules of how things operate in that world. And what do I mean by that? Well, think about it like this: is you can take, they call them the 7 Hermetic principles. They're not really Hermetic. They're more kind of a contrasting of various different principles that were derived from all different types of teachings. But look at it like this: is when you see laws or principles in various different esoteric or philosophical studies, don't think of them as kind of the rule of the universe, but think about them as how consciousness interacts with reality, right? How consciousness interacts with reality. Now, with that being said, what you get out of this is that as a human being goes about their growth, their spiritual growth and development, you are interacting continuously with your reality. You're interacting with other beings, other people, consciousness. And if you are, 2 words important here: ignorant or nescient. Nescient means that you have no knowledge of these rules or principles. Ignorant means that you're aware of them, but you just choose not to even learn about it. If you're nescient or ignorant, typically what's going to happen in your life is you're going to sway back and forth. You're going to be variable on your path in life because you are outside of what's known as the laws of consciousness. You don't necessarily have an understanding or a foundation of them. In lots of different philosophies, we call the adherence to those laws of consciousness as the middle path. You probably heard about that in Freemasonry or Buddhism. It's the middle path. The middle path is the one that does not deviate from those strict laws of how consciousness interacts with the universe. Then you get into the idea that once you obtain a certain level of mastery over these principles of how your consciousness interacts with reality, then you become what they would consider to be a magician, right? The occult magicians. And there's white magicians, there's gray magicians, and there's black magicians. And think about it like this, is that a white magician, one that works for the benefit of humanity, the benefit of themselves that benefit humanity, right? Is that your actions and intentions and influences in the world are for the benefit of others. That's interesting. A black magician, on the other hand, is they take advantage of those in ignorance and nescience. The people that do not know what they do not know, and they take advantage of the people that know that there's something there but choose not to follow that path, right? They take advantage of that ignorance and that nescience. And what they do is they exploit those people's actions and influences in reality by influencing them, of which their ignorance and nescience that's being exploited benefits the dark magician. Now, one of the ways that they do this is they tell you what they're going to do before they do it. They lay it all out in front of you, because if you're ignorant and nescient of it, you're not going to see it. The reason they do that is so that they avoid karmic infliction, right? So they avoid the wheel of time, the wheel of karma, if you want to look at it like that. And I know some people are probably looking at this like, Josh, this is crazy. And like, listen, it's not necessarily, it doesn't mean that you have to believe it. This is what they believe. I'm telling you what they believe and how they operate. So when we start to see protocols that are aligned with like the harvest moon or the hunter moon, or with various different significant dates and times, and we start to see a ritual that happens at a very ceremonious place, I pay attention. I pay close attention. And so the other day, you had this gentleman, Ayanam, I think is the artist name. He's basically unheard of, that performed this concert on October 10th in front of the Great Pyramids. Now, I don't care about the light show and any of that stuff. The idea this was called the end of Genesis. And he spells Genesis differently. But the end of Genesis, which Genesis, if you know, is the first book of the Torah and the Bible, right? So the end of Genesis would mean, in kind of this occult perspective, is that it's the end of the beginning. Ah, okay. So there's two acts here, the quantum and the end of Genesis, and it represented death and rebirth, the death of the human physical form and the rebirth of transhumanism. And this is kind of what this concert was about. In the concert, you have an android, Eva, who is spirit emerging from machine. The pyramids, whether they were or not, are symbolized within the human psyche and consciousness as ancient tombs of resurrection. Okay, so here's the kicker. 3 days after this concert was October 13th. Now, there's a history behind October 13th. If you ever heard of Friday the 13th, this is the day that Francis King Philip IV ordered the mass arrest and the death of the Knights Templar, accusing them of heresy and devil worship. Hundreds were tortured and dozens burned at the stakes. Their order was erased overnight. As well, October 13, 1792, the cornerstone for the White House was laid in Washington, D.C. So those are two very, very significant events that historically happened on October 13th. And so I look at this and I say, is there correlation to people like Donald Trump with these two events? And I say, absolutely. Well, number one, he's a president. And the idea in 1792, the cornerstone of the White House was laid in Washington, D.C. on October 13th. That is fairly significant. The cornerstone to our republic, the cornerstone to our country, the head building that represents around the world the United States government was laid. At the same time, on October 13th, Friday in 1307, the Knights Templar were assassinated, which were the protectors of Jerusalem, the protectors of the Holy Land, the protectors of the human spirit. Symbolic, highly. But there's 3 days that pass between October 10th to October 13th. 3 days, the classic span of what's known as death and resurrection, Christ, Osiris, rebirth through sacrifice. I talked about this a little bit the other night on Q After Hours when we were going through kind of when I was going through the same post. And there's something known as astrotheology. And astrotheology was kind of how we calculated the seasons and the transit of the sun through myth. It's the anthropomorphication of the stars and the planets in the heavens down to a human form. And one of those is the transit of the sun. And the sun does some interesting things because it doesn't have a completely circular orbit, it has an elliptical orbit. And when it goes to when it comes to its closest point versus its furthest point away from the our planet, when Earth comes close to the sun as the furthest point, there's two things that happen there. These are called standstills or solstices. So you remember you have an equinox. Equinox means equilibrium, and this is fall and spring, and that's in the middle of a figure 8. The two tops, you have what's called standstill or solstice, which means standstill. And the reason they call it the standstill is because this is the end of that elliptical. And what happens is actually really, really interesting. If you track the sun through the sky over the 365 days of the year, and let's just say you're looking out your kitchen window or your screen door, and every day at noon, you put a dot on that window. Okay? Every day you put a dot on that window. You're going to track the movement of the sun. And over a year's period, that is going to look like this. And it's called an analemma, right? Now, the middle part right here is spring and fall. The top part is the highest point, the longest time of the year, and that is called summer. The bottom part is called winter. And this is actually the closest that the Earth comes to the sun. Well, something interesting happens on both of these parts, on these long distances, is if you're calculated in a 360-degree fashion, what you find is that basically every day the sun rises for 1 degree every day for 360 days. But for a few days, it doesn't rise. And so you can see this on the points of these dots. On December 21st, this is where the sun is. And for the next 3 days, the sun actually does not increase or decrease in this, where you would put it on this dot at noon. It stays there for 3 days. And it sets in the Western Hemisphere, Southwestern Hemisphere, or sorry, the Northwestern Hemisphere, on the constellation of Crux, the cross. And it said that the sun dies on December 21st, and 3 days later, it's resurrected. And this is where we get the holiday of Christmas. Now, I'm not trying to trample on anybody's religion or anything like that. I'm a believer in Christ. What I'm trying to say is this is called astrotheology, right? And the story of Osiris is very similar. The story of Osiris is that he was killed by his brother Set. He was thrown into the Nile. How many pieces? 13. Well, Monday was October 13th. And then that night, his wife's sister put him back together. She couldn't find one piece, the 14th piece. She melded him one out of gold, his penis. This is where we get the phallic symbol, the obelisk. And she became impregnated. And from that impregnation, for the 1 day of resurrection that he had, December 25th, she got pregnant through Horus, and Horus was birthed 9 months later, and he was the resurrected Osiris. Now, I find this interesting. But anyways, going back into this. Now, when I saw this happening, it was on just October 10th, October 11th. I posted this post, and I said, "Oh man, I'm worried that they're going to do some occult ritual," but that's not what we saw. So my fear is that they were going to do an occult ritual and try to take out Trump, but that's not what happened. Instead, it was kind of the exact opposite. Now, one thing about the evil in the world is what they do is they do something known as inversion. And when they infiltrated all of these occult societies and esoteric mystery schools and all this stuff, what they did is they inverted the knowledge and they inverted the symbology. A prime example of this is the swastika. The swastika is an inverted symbol. It is a symbol that meant peace and harmony, representing the universal power throughout the universe and primarily associated with Buddhism and Hinduism. But the Nazis inverted it and it became representative of something very, very evil. Jesus is a classic inversion. Is the cross represents a few different things. It represents the zodiac, the transition of the zodiac, as well as the cross represented the end stake of death, that the Roman crucifixion. But Jesus being crucified on the cross transmutated, inverted that symbology from something negative and evil to something beautiful and glorious. Do you see how that works? See, the inversion works both ways. And this is important to understand because what I think happened on October 13th was someone in the Trump administration, or maybe Donald Trump himself, realizing what was happening on the occult level. Because, guys, if you haven't realized it, there is a dark occult hand operating on this planet right now. That the hidden hand behind all of this stuff is a very, very evil, satanic, and dark group of people and probably something else. And this was an occult ritual that was set up, I believe, to take out Donald Trump. And it didn't. Instead, that ritual was utilized for an inversion. And the good guys inverted that energy that was created for that ritual and transmutated it into world peace. At least that's how I'm envisioning it. The next day, Kash Patel said something very interesting. He said, it seems fitting that on Columbus Day, remember, just a week prior, Donald Trump brought back Columbus Day as a federal holiday, where we celebrate the discovery of the new world. Donald Trump brought peace to the old world. Oh my goodness. And so you go back to that ritual, of which is representing the end of Genesis. And it's supposed to represent transhumanism, and it's supposed to have a sacrifice. But instead, what we saw is a transmutation of that ritual, representing the end of the old guard, the end of the old world, and the birth of the new. That's pretty crazy. Now, do the board say anything about this? They actually do. Drop 2450. Look at this. Let me blow it up a little bit. We're going to show you a new world. Those who are blind will soon see the light. A beautiful, brave new world lies ahead. We take this journey together, one step at a time. Where we go one, we go all. Well, that's not the only one. 1052. So Anon says, I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. Where we go one, we go all. And Q says, trust and faith in us is enough. You elected us to do the heavy lifting. Enjoy the show. Birth of a new nation, new world. And I had some conversations with some people last night that afterwards I began to see kind of what all of this means. And I can go into that, but we don't necessarily have to. Now, Donald Trump today, listen to what he says. I mean, he's hinting towards it. Listen to this.
His example, we've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it, and they become violent. They seem to become very violent on the left.
They have the devil's ideology. He's calling them out. He's not talking to the average American lefty out there. He's calling out the evil in this world. Because what we are witnessing is something truly biblical. Now, I'm going to get into the other part of this because you know what happened today. The Pope and the White Horse. And you're probably thinking, Revelations, oh my goodness, the Antichrist. Because if you look at it, it kind of feels that way. But I don't think that that's what's happening. Let's pull this post up. So go down here. The Pope, an American Pope, was gifted a white horse today. And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Revelations 6:2. On October 13th, 2025, the headlines declared a historic Middle East ceasefire. Israel, Gaza, and the coalition of Arab and Western nations pledging to end decades of conflict. 2 days later, the Pope received a gift, a pure white Arabian horse named Proton. Guys, this is not coincidence. For those who study symbolism, the timing feels orchestrated and scripted, but highly relevant. In Revelation, the first seal opens with a rider on a white horse, often interpreted as the onset of deceptive peace before turmoil. So just think about that. The first seal opening, right, is translated, interpreted by many people as the onset of deceptive peace before mass chaos. And what just happened? Donald Trump gets peace in the Middle East, and 2 days later, the Pope receives a white horse. The unsealing of the first seal was the Monday, October 13th. Teachers like Hale Lindsey, Chuck Missler, Dr. James Jeremiah viewed this first seal as a false peace brokered by the Antichrist. That would make Donald Trump the Antichrist. Likely in the Middle East, the prophetic heart of Scripture, Israel being the epicenter of God's covenant timeline. This is exactly what just happened, but I disagree. I don't think Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Start to think the inversive nature that I just talked about. Start to think about inversion. The good guys can utilize the tool of inversion as well. Daniel 9:27, he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. Thessalonians 5:3, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. Whether coincidence, poetry, or providence, the imagery is unmistakable. Peace proclaimed, a white horse revealed, the world watching what comes next. Anyone else have an incredibly eerie feeling about this? And behold, a white horse, the first of the four horsemen. White, purity or deception. The bow, power without open war. The crown, authority granted. Conquest, false peace before chaos. The white horse always comes first, the calm before the storm. The horse's name is Proton. Long before physics, the Greeks used the word proton to mean the first. Aristotle called it the first mover, the primal cause from which motion and order arise. Now in 2025, a white horse named Proton stands before the world, the first, the beginning, the first mover. This is nuts. But wait, there is more. Not all see the rider as deception. Early church fathers, Irenaeus, Victorinus, and later reformers believed the white horse represented Christ himself. The gospel riding forth, conquering hearts and nations. White is purity and victory, the bow, the spiritual power, crown, the triumph of truth. In this view, the first seal isn't the rise of evil, but the advance of divine truth across the world. The lion and the white horse together symbolize the world moving forward again. Now, why is the lion important here? Revelations 5:5, behold, the lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphant. Hold on a second here. This is Pope Leo the 14th. Leo is the lion. The lion, Pope Leo, receiving the white horse, Proton, would represent the awakening of divine leadership in a time of global reorientation, the beginning, Proton, of a new movement of truth, white, carried forth by courage and authority, the lion. Now, In Jungian astrology, Donald Trump is a Leo. The lion, kingship, is his crown. So I want you to look at this as a mirror of Revelation's first seal. Not necessarily a fulfillment, but a reflection of the archetypical pattern. This gives a whole new idea to it's going to be biblical. And the reason that this makes sense is because you have to understand how that world, the spiritual world, operates. Once you understand that if the vision of enough minds and consciousness and spirits and souls align towards one thing, it'll become manifest. That is the true power of God working through you and me. Trump knows this. They all know this. And what they have done is they have inverted the evil of the world, their symbology. They have taken something that has been portrayed. I say that because you got to remember, not everybody views Revelation as something evil or God's judgment coming down with fire and brimstone. It's all dependent upon the actions of man. If we can straighten up our acts. And what I think we see happening here is through divine guidance. I seriously believe this. Through divine guidance. That they are, I don't want to say inverting. I think inversion is the wrong word. But in this view, the first seal isn't the rise of evil, right? But it is representative of Christ himself. It is the movement of Christ himself. The gospel riding forth and conquering the hearts and the nations. Going back to the Q posts. We are going to show you a whole new world. Those who are blind will soon see the light. A beautiful, brave new world lies ahead. We take this journey together one step at a time. Going to the other one. Your trust and faith in us is enough. You elected us to do the heavy lifting. Enjoy the show. Birth of a new nation. A new world. They are setting the precedent through prophecy of a new world. A world of peace. Now, this is interesting because if you understand the sovereign alliance, G, Putin, MBS, Saudi Arabia, all the other nations, they came together 2018 and 2019 through various different summits and meetings. And behind closed doors, they negotiated world peace. Now, why is that important? It goes back to a lot of the stuff that I've talked about. And I know this is getting fringy and conspiracy oriented. I don't care. These are my thoughts, and this is what I'm thinking right now. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, maybe Donald Trump's the Antichrist because we got the white horse and Revelation and God's going to come down with judgment. And no, I don't really think that that's what's going to happen. I think that what we're seeing happen is divine action. I think that God is working through you and me, opening the eyes of the world. I think that God is working through people like Donald Trump and his administration, bringing peace throughout the world. I think that we are watching the eradication of the evil echelons that have controlled and ruled this world for a very, very long time, a very, very dark power be destroyed. And it has to be systematic. It has to be methodical. It has to be strategic. It has to be coordinated with symbology, with various different important dates, and coordinated with prophecy. Because all of those things hold massive spiritual power. I think that this is what we're witnessing right now. I truly do. When Q says it's going to be biblical, it's going to be biblical. And a lot of this goes back to the various other theories that I've had. And I say they're theories because I don't have substantiating evidence to prove any of this, except for this lineage of symbology and things that I'm seeing and understanding. But one thing that I do know, and I've been told this by various people, whistleblowers and people I know in these projects or were in these projects, is the one thing that we can ascertain is that the deep state, the global cabal, they never got their hands on the massive exotic technology that the U.S. government, through military-industrial complex, has held for a long time. And I proposed the theory that what if there was a secret society or a group of people that vowed to keep that technology protected until mankind was ready for it? This is where it gets really interesting. See, that technology cannot be released to humanity until we are truly ready to accept the responsibility of what it is. And we know that our government has already reverse engineered a lot of this technology, but we don't have the infrastructure. What if there was a secret society that planned to re-infiltrate all these organizations, take them over from the inside, and utilize the good people in this world as methodologies of resource and driving a strategy over 100 years to take back the planet from this evil? I think that that's what we're witnessing right now. And in the context of the technology, the military-industrial complex, I'm not saying the military-industrial complex is the good guys. What I'm saying is they had one mission, to contain this technology, and they've done a really good job of this. We saw this with Hillary Clinton's emails and the SAP programs being released. We saw this with John Podesta calling for the release of that. Bill Clinton getting denied access to the SAP programs and the reverse engineering of this high-level technology. We know that they don't have access to it because if they did, they would have already enslaved us. So what's it all leading up to? A whole new world. A world that we should have had a long time ago. But because we were infiltrated by some evil that was maybe conjured up through occult ritual, the world had to be put on pause. And the world suffered. The world was injured. And the world faced mass trauma. And we're recovering from that. We're still enduring it in a lot of different points. But I truly believe that there is good in this world that is working right now to defeat that evil, as well as you and me. What we are doing right now, right here, is defeating the evil in the world, speaking the truth, telling our thoughts. This is what it's about, expressing our soul from our center and our being. Having faith in divine creation and divine power. And like I said, Trump has made some very, very interesting moves. He's made $19 trillion worth of investment deals in the United States of America. Now, why? Why would all these countries want to invest $19 trillion in the United States of America when Donald Trump's only going to be here for 3 years and they know some other president's going to be coming in? Because they understand what he's doing. They've all made deals. They know what comes next. See, once this technology comes forth, you have to have an infrastructure to substantiate it. And see, that infrastructure is going to make a lot of people a lot of money. And he's bringing in the money to build out that infrastructure for new technology. Now, I'm not afraid of technology. Technology is a double-edged sword. It can be utilized for good. It can be utilized for bad. But how do you bring people to the table? How do you get them to make deals? This is how you do it. How do you get people to acquiesce their power, to capitulate their stance? Leverage. 5D chess. That's what we've seen over the last 10 months. And everything is adding up that there's a big secret that we're not being told. I think you all know this. We all realize this. There's a lot that we're not being told about what's going on. There's an invisible war occurring. We all understand that. But there's trickle-down disclosure happening in the context of technology. I talked about this with Lieutenant General Steve Quast and the things that he said, or Army Secretary Dan Driscoll talking about astronauts on the moon who are Army soldiers, right? A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense unless you understand that we already have a moon base. We already have people on the moon. We already have a nuclear reactor on the moon. This isn't new stuff. We've done this for the last 30 years. That we have spacecraft that are in orbit. But we can't introduce the whole planet to this stuff yet because the planet's not ready. The planet's got to catch up. Because the planet has been suppressed and beaten down in a trauma state because of an evil hand that's ruled over this planet for a long time. And I think we are moving to the point right now where in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be a reality. And I think that they have a plan to make this very, very swift in action. But don't be fooled. There is evil afoot. There is evil in this world, and they are still trying to take down the good guys. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. This makes no sense. In a heart-stopping mid-Atlantic nightmare, War Secretary Pete Hegseth's United States Air Force C-32A Boeing 757 emergency diverted to RAF Mildenhall in the UK. This happened after a catastrophic windshield crack forced a 10,000-foot plunge to 3,000 meters with everyone aboard safe. Fresh off of Brussels, NATO defense ministers Huddle and the Ukraine Ramstein powwow, where Hegseth bullied allies into Trump's Buy America arms flood of Kiev and jet ghosted from Brussels to DC. It then U-turned in transponder blackout over the Atlantic, dropping like a stone before touching down at 5:26 p.m. Eastern Time. White House insiders leaked DOJ probes in the Russian hackers and Iranian proxies, possibly cracking the canopy in a hit on Trump's hawkish war secretary. So White House insiders leaked DOJ probes into Russian hackers or Iranian proxies, possibly cracking the canopy. So this is what I want you to see, is anonymous sources inside the DOJ are leaking fake intelligence saying that, hey, this is possibly Russia or Iran. Now, when you're dealing with wartime strategy, especially a country you're not at war with, the one thing that you have to understand is that a country that's not at war with you isn't going to instigate a war with you by doing something fucking stupid and obvious. As in, Russia and Iran aren't going to sabotage Secretary of War's Hegseth's plane to take him down because they can do it, because they want to do evil in the world. That doesn't happen. That's called a false flag. Who has something to benefit from that? Well, if they could take out Hegseth's plane and Hegseth, died in a plane crash and they could blame it on Russia or Iran, well, the UK can benefit from that. The EU benefits from that, which is the old guard, which is being decimated. And then Israel could benefit from that because now you get an expanded war in the Middle East and they can move forth with the greater Israel agenda that they've been propagating for the last 60 years. But Russia and Iran don't benefit from that because the scenario is always the same. War and decimation. Iran would get their asses kicked. Russia would get their asses kicked if they did that. It's dumb to even speculate that, but that White House insiders leaked DOJ probing into Russian hackers or Iranian proxies, possibly cracking the canopy. That's bullshit. That is an insider threat working inside the DOJ or the White House that's leaking that information. By the way, the Trump administration had 0 leaks, remember? So who in the White House is leaking that information? Someone who wants to instigate a world war to generate chaos, which is exactly what we said, because their power has been inverted. The evil of the world, it's been inverted. Isn't it interesting, though? The same day that this happens, Trump's Pentagon confiscates virtually every major media organization's press passes for refusing to sign the new Department of War's media policy. Got to remember, someone from the White House or the DOW leaked this to the press. And then today, without giving any leeway, they gave him a week to sign it. Without any more leeway, nope. We're confiscating your press passes. They're like, this is a violation of the First Amendment. No, it's not. Many people are talking about the Gaza crisis, the 72-hour reality check. Israel is saying that Hamas has broke the deal because they failed to deliver the bodies of victims over 72 hours. The U.S. stepped in and said, no, come on now. So 2 senior advisors confirmed the group honored its commitment to release live hostages, but locating 28 bodies buried under 2 years of war rubble, that's an entirely different beast. And I'm glad the U.S. is being very logical and rational in this. In a 72-hour ceasefire, it would have been almost impossible for Hamas to mobilize, even knowing where all 28 bodies were. And so what they're asking for is Israeli intelligence to give that information to Hamas so Hamas can go locate those bodies. But Israel already trying to topple the whole ceasefire and peace deal. So now we get into the whole global aspect of things. And you got to remember, we are taking down the infrastructure of evil around this world, and they are set up in a lot of different places. One of those we do believe is Venezuela, and I've been talking about this a lot. Today, 2 U.S. nuclear capable bombers buzzed the Caribbean in a message towards Maduro. The B-52H Stratofortress bombers took a dramatic detour over the Gulf, Yucatan Channel, and Southern Caribbean, right past Cuba and Venezuela. Part of Trump's anti-cartel campaign, the flight doubles as a sky-high warning to both the cartels and Maduro, because nothing says stop the drugs like flying Cold War flex at 30,000 feet. So Trump today, we'll just play, because I'm pretty sure by now you're sick of me talking.
Why did you authorize the CIA to go into Venezuela? And is there more information you can share about these strikes on the alleged?
Well, I can't do that, but I authorized for 2 reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the, they came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And they've entered they've allowed thousands and thousands of prisoners, mental institution, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, emptied out into the United States. We're bringing them back, but that's a really bad, and they did it at a level that probably not, many countries have done it, but not like Venezuela. They were down and dirty. And
Trump sent the CIA into Venezuela. What I want you to understand about this is that he didn't send like undercover CIA operatives to gather intelligence. That happened probably in January. He's sending the former Delta Force operators that are working for the CIA into Venezuela. That's what we're talking about, kinetic operations inside Venezuela, people. Exactly. Remember when I said this months ago that we already have special forces on the ground? And they're not just in Venezuela, through Central America, into Mexico. So 100% justified and legal by the book. Wait until the Democrats find out how special forces have been operating all throughout that AOR. That's one of the things I said about this. The cartels had declared war. $50,000 bounties on ICE chiefs' heads in a blood-chilling cartel counterstrike that torches Trump's deportation blitz. Mexican drug lords had flooded Chicago streets with tiered kill contracts. Up to $50,000 for ICE chiefs' heads, according to the DHS bombshell, as Latin King spotters stalked feds from rooftops amid riot infernos outside detention hellholes. Tier 1, $2,000 to dox agents with family pics and shadows. $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping or beatdowns on grunts. Top tier, $50,000 to smoke high command like Chicago Border Patrol boss Gregory Bovino, whose Latin King's triggerman Juan Espinoza Martinez was nabbed on October 7th for a $10,000 snapshot hit plot. All wired from Mexico's cartel vaults, coordinated with U.S. extremist mobs who sabotaged Trump's mass removal machine. Secretary Noem is surging National Guard shields for ICE raids that snagged 1,200 illegals. Now, if there's ever a time that Trump was going to bring about the Insurrection Act, this would be it. Especially if something from this actually happens. if we get something that actually occurs because of this, you are absolutely going to see the Insurrection Act come up. And I think that it's almost guaranteed that within the next week, we're probably going to see the Insurrection Act, just because of this threat that is now being publicly notified by DHS. All right, let me go here real quick. All right, it is that time of year again. We got to pay the bills, guys. We got to pay the bills. As Alpha says, we got to pay the bills. And so we're going to do this real quick. Everybody on Rumble, you'll see a QR code and some links pop up. Bring this over here. Let's be clear. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And the latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the largest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again. I'm really bad at ads. I sometimes forget to do them. I forget to do them a lot, but it's okay. Donald Trump today announced land strikes. This is what we've been prepping for. I thought it was going to happen a lot sooner. Like I said, I knew we had operators on the ground. I thought that we would have been already doing certain kinetic strikes in those areas, but maybe they're still gathering intelligence. Now that the CIA, it's out there that CIA operators, special forces guys are on the ground in Venezuela, we can see this actually happening any hour, any day.
The next step in this war on cartels, and are you considering options, are you considering strikes on land?
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control. We've had a couple of days where there isn't a boat to be found. And that I view that as a good thing, not a bad thing. But we had tremendous amounts coming in by boats, by very expensive boats. You know, they have a lot of money, very fast, very expensive boats that were pretty big. And the way you look at it is every boat that we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. So every time you see a boat and you feel badly, you say, wow, that's rough. It is rough, but if you lose 3 people and save 25,000 people, these are people that are killing our population. Every boat.
The next step.
Wow. And I was just listening to him there. And, you know, think about that is every missile that we launch at one of those drug boats is saving 25,000 American lives. That's interesting, but he's probably got a point there because it's probably fentanyl. It's probably cocaine. And the amount of drug abuse and overdoses in this country, it's crazy. Over 180,000 a year. Rumor is, so, okay, firstly, I gotta go to another post first before we go to this. You gotta go to Dan Scavino, man. Gotta go to Dan Scavino's post. So there was, where was it? Oh, well, I thought it was a repost from last night, but I guess not. But either way, grand jury expected to indict ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton for transmitting classified documents and private email, according to sources. The fact that this is being reported by the New York Post, you can expect that indictment any day now. And my thoughts are, since they've already raided his house once, is you're going to see a perp walk on this one. And, you know, it kind of evens the playing field. You had Comey, and now you're going to have a Republican. And Bolton is going to be actually the first really big indictment if this does come about, because this is for not perjury, but actually something that can fall under the Espionage Act and transmitting classified documents. So this will be really, really interesting. I think that we can probably expect that tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Expect it on Thursday. Why do I say that? Little information for you. The FBI typically does arrests and raids on Thursdays. Why? Because the courts aren't open on Fridays and people have to sit in jail for 4 days before they can get an arraignment. Now, yesterday, I talked about this. Man, I'm starting to grow a little beard back, a little bit. I'm not going to let it get as long as I did last time, but it's just itchy. It's at that itchy point. Oh, by the way, I wanted to announce this. I got to announce this, guys. For all my Badlanders out there in or near Cocoa Beach, Florida. Let me pull this up. My name hasn't been added yet, but it's going to be there. So if you are going to go to GART, the Great American Restoration Tour, 10 Badlands, the Great American Restoration Tour in Cocoa Beach, Florida, I will be one of the featured speakers at this event. So there you're going to see John Harold, Chris Paul, Burning Bright, Zach Payne, G Money, myself, Jordan Sather, CanCon, Alpha Warrior, Ashen America, JB White, Cam Kuski, and the Ghost of Based Patrick Henry. So if you guys are interested in that, I will have a link out for you in the next 24 hours. So watch out for that link. I will absolutely be there. This is November 6th, next month, November 6th to November 9th in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So hopefully I can meet a whole bunch of you guys there and see you there. People have been asking me, are you going to GART? You going to GART? I just got confirmation. I will be at GART. So this will be my second GART, and it's going to be a heck of a time. I'm excited to go. I got to actually book my flight tonight. Although I don't have a real ID and I don't have a passport, but we'll figure it out. I got a plan, don't worry. The other day I talked about phase 2. It's just interesting how this stuff works out. I saw a person a little while ago saying Donald Trump is absolutely listening to your show. And I'm like, oh, really? Maybe he is. I don't know. It'd be cool if he was, right? But this is the type of stuff that makes me think that he actually is. So Donald Trump posted, that's Rumble Studio, that's the wrong link. Yesterday, all 20 hostages are back and feeling good as can be expected, as a big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned. As promised, phase 2 begins right now. And so, yes, there is a phase 2 to the Gaza plan. And phase 2 is the return of the dead and the transition, moving Israel back to the yellow line, as well as the ISF forces moving in. But you got to understand how Donald Trump communicates. Phase 2, economy today, unemployment up, trade today, China, phase 2 held accountable. It's interesting because China just pulled back their rare earth minerals and metals from the world stage for defense reasons. Stall U.S.-China trade, phase 2 by China, tied to prevent loss of billions and locked a new agreement, right? And so very, very unfortunate phase 2 if Korea sanctions fail. Trump is actually going to Korea to meet with Xi Jinping over the next few days, and this is phase 2, no coincidences. So my thoughts on this when this came about is that there's double meanings exist here. When he's talking about phase 2, he is talking about China. Now, Trump, we've stopped wars using trade and tariffs. I love this because this is what I've been actually saying that nobody else, even Trump, was saying, and now Trump is actually saying it out there.
We stopped a lot of these wars using trade. We had, as an example, India and Pakistan were going at it really hard. 7 planes were shot down. It was going to happen. Bad things were happening. And I was talking to both of them about trade. And I said, how are we doing with this? They said, sir, we're doing very well. I said, great. Well, we're not going to do well. We're not going to do a trade deal unless they stop the war.
So he's talking about utilizing trade and tariffs as a methodology to end war. Isn't that what he was doing with China originally? Is stopping the Belt and Roads Initiative, which eventually would have led to China becoming a hyperpower and some kinetic interaction with the United States of America? Yeah. And he used trade renegotiations, renegotiating all the trade deals around the world in the benefit of the United States of America, therefore stopping a lot of the BRI from progressing, especially in Latin America and in the Middle East and in Europe. And it pissed a lot of people off because a lot of people had billions, trillions of dollars invested in this. Trump said today, and this is what I meant that I think he's listening, is Trump says the U.S. is in a trade war with China. Now, put those two things together. He says that we use trade and tariffs to stop wars. Today, he declares that there's a trade war on China? Is he hinting that, hey, there's potential conflict coming with China? Remember what I said when Xi Jinping is just a figurehead. There's a lot of rumors circulating, especially in U.S. intelligence, that Xi Jinping has been removed from power, that Wong, I don't know how to say his name, the second premier, is actually in control, and the CCP is moving forth because they were embarrassed by Donald Trump, and Xi Jinping has been stood down. So this, to me, when Trump says in one statement is that we use trade and tariffs to stop wars, and then he says that we are in a trade war with China, that is telling you that we are trying to stop a war with China, and so we are going to try to utilize trade. The U.S. today, top U.S. officials are fuming after China moved to tighten rare earth exports, calling it a supply chain power grab, and warning Beijing to back off before things get uglier. And here's the validation of this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says China's move threatens to reignite a full-blown trade war, which Donald Trump just said today. And yes, Trump is ready to hike tariffs by 100% if pushed. China's claims it's just business. Bessent says this was planned all along, and now they're blaming holiday delays and probably something excuses to choke rare earth supplies. Secretary Bessent said, if China wants to be an unreliable partner to the world, then the world will have to decouple, meaning try us. See what happens. Fuck around and find out. This is what I mean. This could easily escalate into an actual kinetic conflict due to what's happening. The world is dependent on 86% of the rare earth minerals and metals come from China. The oil in the world, and I've talked about how the oil is being utilized against China, how Donald Trump is renegotiating with Iran, and Iran was giving China cheap oil, over 70%. They were buying all of this and forced now to buy it from OPEC, the Middle East, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, which now have massive defense cooperation agreements as well as investment options in the United States of America, which means that Donald Trump can force them to put pressure directly on Beijing. Now, if they put pressure on Beijing and that skyrockets oil and gas prices, and maybe even sanctions, economic sanctions to China comes about from this, because China is utilizing the rare earth minerals and metals and holding them from the world stage, which is needed for technology and military, that Trump will pressure the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia to basically sanction them with oil and gas, which will then force China into Iran once again. And then that's where everything flares up with Iran all over again, because the United States controls the trade routes in the Middle East primarily, and which can stop that and put embargoes on oil and gas going to China. That would ultimately lead to kinetic conflict with China and the United States of America. And so this is what Trump is saying is, we're going to use trade. We're going to try to do it. We're going to bump the tariffs to try to avoid war. But it seems that China's position has changed. Let's hope not. Let's hope that the sovereign alliance is still intact here. The United States Army is reporting they're going to install nuclear reactors on 9 U.S. bases by 2028. They just unveiled Project Janus, a plan to power 9 domestic bases with small nuclear reactors by 2028. Officials say it's about energy independence and future wars where fuel lines can't be trusted. These mobile reactors can be flown in, tucked out, and generate megawatts on demand. The project follows Trump's 2025 order directing the Pentagon to operate Army-regulated nuclear plants. This is huge because guess what? 3 years ago, nobody ever heard of micro-nuclear reactors. It wasn't until January 2025 that the Department of Energy started putting out, look, we have these compact micro-nuclear reactors. Here's the great thing about those micro-nuclear reactors. If you're in a community of 250 people in your neighborhood, you could have one of those micro-nuclear reactors that powers all of your houses, and you guys are completely off the grid. Yeah. And commercialization of these things is actually coming. I don't know if they're thorium or not. Thorium doesn't produce any cesium or radioactive materials. But understand that this is massive, massive in the context of energy production. You're going to see these things going everywhere. And they are incredibly safe, by the way. Oh, I got a prediction. So we're seeing this conflict arising right now between Afghanistan and Pakistan. It's really Pakistan just picking on Afghanistan, okay? Afghanistan really can't fight back too much. Pakistan is kicking the shit out of Afghanistan. as this begins to escalate, what you will see is the Trump administration step in to negotiate a ceasefire. Okay? I'm telling you, we got to remember, what did Donald Trump say 2 days ago? One of my favorite people in the world is the Army Chief of Staff in Pakistan. He was there right before Bibi came in. He was right there before the Iran attacks. Now Pakistan is bombing the shit out of Afghanistan. 2 weeks after Donald Trump said that Afghanistan needs to give Bagram back to the United States of America? I don't see that as a coincidence. The Trump administration is going to step in and say, hey, Afghanistan, do you guys want to stop getting bombed by Pakistan? I'll negotiate it. And Afghanistan's going to be like, please help us. We need to stop this. The Trump administration is going to go in, and they're not going to do it for free. They're going to demand a return of Bagram. In exchange, Pakistan will stop bombing them. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. I have a really good feeling about this one. This is an interesting conversation and kind of correlates directly with what I've been saying, that there's backdoor channels open between Trump and Iran, that we know Trump notified Iran 24 hours prior to the B-2 bomber attack on the nuclear facilities to limit casualties. That is a sign of mutual respect. When Iran retaliated in Qatar, they missed on purpose. They notified Qatar and U.S. officials before they did it. Iran wants to get back on the global stage. And Donald Trump is more than willing to get rid of all terrorists altogether. There's just one variable, and that's Israel, because they're the biggest contester of that. But listen what Trump says here.
It didn't work out too well. So they used to have the support of Iran. Today, they're trying to survive. You know, when I heard the reports 2 weeks ago, Iran's looking to build a nuclear weapon, I said, don't worry about it. They got a lot of things they want to do before nuclear weapons. I said, the last thing they want to do is a nuclear weapon. It didn't work out. And if they did a nuclear weapon before they got even close, that site would be attacked and it would be wiped.
So what Trump was talking about there is Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF came out 2 weeks ago, and they put out mass propaganda that Iran is building a nuclear weapon and they're 1 year away and they have refined uranium and we don't believe them and they're going to build a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump just basically said, it's not going to fucking happen. As in other words, he's not buying this bullshit ever again. That Israel cannot utilize that idea that Iran is building a nuclear weapon as a point of aggression against Iran. Donald Trump just negated it. And he's saying that, hey, their people are suffering. They got to come to the table and negotiate, and we got to get rid of their sanctions so they can come back into the world. That's what he's talking about here. Trump said AI is the new internet, and we're winning big. We're dominating China. We're dominating with AI, which seems to be the new thing. It's the new internet. It absolutely is. And it is a double-edged sword. It's something that we need to be careful with. Now, this is part of what we were talking about earlier, the new world that is being birthed right now. Technology is going to be a big part of it. And don't be afraid of technology, but understand that technology can be exploited. All right, man. Time flies by when we're having fun, doesn't it? All right. Now, kind of going back. We are at that precipice point, people. Things are truly getting biblical. And I think as the days progress and as things move forth, there's going to be things that the Trump administration does that you're just not going to like the Epstein files. Why are they suppressing that? I don't think it's because of Israel. I think that there's more to it. I think there's a lot more to it. I think that it has to do with secret drug trials and DNA experiments and the things that they were doing with a lot of the children that they were moving and who they were moving them to, pharmaceutical companies and medical research companies and DNA research companies. I think a lot of it has to do with all of that. And I think that there is probably national defense reasons why some of this information will not be revealed. Is that unfortunate? It is. I think we all deserve to know the truth, but I do believe that anybody who is an evildoer, anybody that is implicated in that or compromised, is now back under control, is being held responsible and accountable. We talked about this a little bit last night with the generals meeting. And I got confirmation from a friend of mine today stating that, like, I think you guys were 100% spot on, that the generals meeting a few weeks ago was all about weeding out all the bad actors. And one of the interesting things about it is usually when they go into these meetings, they all have encrypted phones that they utilize from the Pentagon. They probably had to turn them in or put them in a box before they went into classified settings and stuff like that, and be an easy way to go through them and find direct associations with them. That's one of my theories, and I think that that's a really good theory. This was interesting. Trump on October 14th, Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never liked taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? I'm going to pull up the picture and I'll point out something for you. So this is the picture that Trump is talking about. Okay. And I can blow it up a little bit. His triumph. Now look, it's almost like they cut off half of his head, right? But as Time magazine does, what do? They put the devil horns on Trump's head. Now, what he's saying about the crown is the floating hair piece right there. But I think he's actually talking about what are they doing? Why are they putting the devil horns above his head? He's pointing out the symbology of who they actually are and what they represent. At least that's my perspective of it. Now, we talked about this the other night, the comms that happened on the one show, the Q After Hours, when we thought we were being watched by the Trump administration. And Alpha asked for the safe word. He said, hey, give us the word safe. And Trump did that yesterday, heading back home, right? Heading back home, very safe and beautiful Washington, D.C., which was pretty crazy because it wasn't just that. It was like 4 or 5 other points of reference that actually came about from this. But there's actually more. So that night, not that night, that afternoon, Donald Trump got back on and he posted this post. And he starts talking about China, right? We don't need to purchase it from China, talking about soybeans. But he posted it at an interesting time. So I'm going to grab my boards. And so he posted this at 3:37 p.m., 3:37. Let me go here. I want to go up there. And I got to go to the boards. And he posted it at 3:37 p.m. And he said, what if, and Alpha told me, he said, what if Trump gave us two responses to that? Because this was the next post after it. Well, 3:37, look at this stuff. They tell us that they are safe. He tells us in that one post, he is safe. But what do they tell us? Do they tell us that we are safe? Patriots, rest assured we are in control. Watch, confirm, and disseminate. The country is not divided. This is fake news. Antifa was organized purely for optics, division. It's fake. Estimated 4 to 6% we consider hopeless and forever brainwashed. Reread crumbs, slave grip of Dems have on the black population. Why is this relevant? Why are jobs, economy, growth relevant? This requires a deep cleaning. These people are stupid. You are safe. Man, I love it. Just love how all this works. We are in biblical times, people. I think you know it. We all know it. That things are about to get really interesting, really, really crazy. Man, I'm excited for everything that's happening because, you know, I'm a firm believer that Patriots are in control. All right, let's do this one right here. You're going to see a QR code up. Got to pay a little bills here. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a golden spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Awesome, guys. I appreciate that. Let me do those advertisements there. If you guys enjoy that music that we do play, you can find that redpillsmusic.com, redpillsmusic.com. And I've got to go ahead and send myself out there. Tomorrow night is our live Q&A after the show. So live Q&A, you can join in on that, and hopefully we can talk about Revelations and all this stuff. I know Nate will be in there wanting to talk about it. But the ways to do that is if you are on a platform right now, Rumble or X, if you subscribe to Locals or you subscribe to X Premium, you will be able to get into the Zoom Q&A tomorrow after the show. So any premium subscription, and one of the best places to get that is redpillproject.substack.com. And yes, we got some content coming out. I'm going to be writing up this one about all the prophecy that we talked about today. But redpillproject.substack.com, that is one of the best places because you get everything, and all of those posts are also posted on our X Premium. So in our socialredpill.com. Socialredpill.com is our private social network. Another place you can get in on all that action. But guys, I appreciate you. I love you. I think you guys are amazing. Because of the name of the show today, we're going to end with a different song, The Armor of God, because I do think it is time, because we are facing evil face to face. So I'm going to leave you go with this one. Love you guys. Take care. Good night.
Stand strong. The day is here. The battle's near. Put on the armor. Yeah. Belt the truth around my waist. Feet of peace, I take my place. Breastplate shining righteousness. Shield of faith, no fear, no death. Helmet of salvation, crown. The word of spirit cuts them down. Darkness trembles, shadows fall. I'm clothed in fire, I hear the call. Armor of God, I will not yield. Stand in the light, my sword, my shield. Against the night, against the light. The armor of God will never die. Every
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!